Hi, Sal. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's quiet in here today.
Yeah, Linux Foundation does get so quiet in December, but it is early still.
We'll give it a couple of minutes for people to join. There's been quite a bit of editing activity on the patterns, so we got some good
Mhm.
feedback. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I thought the TAC feedback on that was pretty good.
Sorry? The
I thought that sort of TAC level feedback on that was really good.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly what I was hoping for.
Exactly.
And also helps us build consensus.
Okay.
Alex said he won't be able to attend, but there are others who might. Otherwise, you and I are going to share superpowers.
Yeah, I've got just one slide that I have for my annual review with a couple of links on it. It's worth just going, discussing, and then yeah,
Oh,
sharing with folks.
let's get started
Okay,
because
sounds good.
yeah, people will
All
catch
right.
up as they see fit. So if you have a slide, let's go over that.
Yeah, let me bring it up. Let's see, share. Just one moment. Okay, there it is. Yeah, all right. So this is the slide that I thought was pretty important. So I was going through my annual review. You should be able to see it momentarily. Looks like it's loading. There we go. So in my annual review, I did a couple of descriptive and just general exploratory statistics around the blogs and everything that I had produced. And I was trying to discover if I could find any patterns within that, just based on what we had written about over the last year. Um, and we still are short of that in the way of creating a categorical standard. So my goal here was, in terms of being able to better support this and to be better able to pull that information out from the CCC members next year, it would be important to me to sort of focus in this way. We need to identify some of the core topics, the core use cases that overlap with those, and any of the key governance topics that overlap with those that we might be able to tie to it. But within this, these two links, uh, the information security systems, that's the bog standard introduction to ACT style review. And then the categoric standard is just a very, very good review of this. If we were to get this right, we quite literally can provide just a Neo4j graphical style backend that shows overlapping governance patterns. But we cannot do that until we can make an ACT guarantee. So
What's
stating
an
that,
ACT?
so ACT is applied categorical standard. That's what we would put in place. So the reason why you use a categorical standard for
I don't even know what a
security.
categorical standard is. Sounds like you need to educate me.
Okay, so a categorical standard in security is a way of going and building a suggested architectural system where you can still have black boxes in that system and have a guarantee of whatever that subcategory has. So we use ACT is a mathematical standard that allows us to say that if there is, so category theory is just using typically what you would do regular mathematics with, but instead of an equal sign, there must be a directionality to it. So typically, you're going to use ACT if you're going to be showing an architecture where you have information going one way and then another, or bidirectionality. So your TLS handshakes, for example, those are usually categorically represented based on where information comes in from an agent and where they go out. So when you have an ACT standard, then that's why things like NIST will go ahead and use that ACT pattern, because below that, you've got the highest order categorical need, that you have the security implementation required independent of the semantics of the implementation, right? So not just pattern above that level, but governance patterns are typically the semantic implementation of operations based on those categorical analyses. Um, I have run into this all year this year, I think really genuinely, because there is not any clear categorical analysis of runtime analysis. I also think that there is a great opportunity generally, and this is not just CCC, this is a much bigger upstreaming to a kernel problem. Um, but the regulation that we currently have in place, we're tripping over ourselves a lot because there's not a clear communication of secure primitives or the way that we swap them out when it's appropriate. And I think that we over codify those. So if you could find better categorical language around this. So categorical language means that we're communicating a security standard or a privacy standard around a specific block of technology.
Mhm.
If we categorize by the security standard, then I think we might be able to have much more stable regulation around this, because when things have to be swapped out, we'll finally have end regulation, understanding that we have that process in place.
Okay. I guess I'm just astounded. That seems like a, well, generally good idea, but I've also in decades of working in this field, I've never heard of it. So do you have examples of this out there being done?
Yes,
And in fact, I would put a one page around it and then email it to the JRC SIG so we can all sort of, or maybe even put it up on the in our in Google Drive.
yeah, that sounds good, because right now all that I have is this. I will put
Hmm.
together a one pager that does have it. I'll fill it with the links that show relevance, and the best comparative standard that I will have for this right now is the NIST uh, graphical analysis for privacy standards, which overlaps with ours. So I'll show that as an example and then see if that's a direction that we want to move. Because, yes, very sincerely, this would be stepping into a place where the categorical mapping is my mathematical standard. We may need assistance for this kind of thing from like Carnegie Mellon.
No.
Um,
Okay.
they're the type that do this review, and they often work with NIST.
Your bullet A, RAT attestation, sounds like
Attestation, remote attestation. Yes, yeah.
it's probably probably misspelled somehow.
Yes, I did
Okay.
miss
Um,
attestation.
I guess I'm also not aware of this. You mentioned this that like, and again, we keep trying and failing to reach NIST, or at least hear back. Uh, so I don't know, like you said, that they start with these ACTs, but again, I'm not familiar with their and I keep asking if anyone has inroads with them that we could reach out and perhaps bring them to the table somehow here.
Yeah,
But
so I
again,
will I will go ahead and my next steps, because I think most of December is probably going to be by mailing list. I will
yeah.
put together a one little white paper that explains and has the links to understand this NIST categorical standard. And on that, I could do this on the same one page. I will also write a little bit to the MITRE defense patterns, because those can be tied to this. So that would be a next step implementation of this. I do
Mhm.
agree that I think the reason why we're not seeing so much on NIST specifications or them moving forward is very simply there's not a lot of people who have applied categorical theory knowledge to do policy analysis. There are a few dozen in the world, but it is the literal standard that they use
Mhm.
to implement. So yeah, this is something that we might need to do some growth in members, and make sure that at least members are communicating and understand these patterns. It might unblock us, but I will go ahead and do that as a white paper so we can get this out to everyone who's not quite on vacation yet, because they're still answering their emails.
Okay. All right, that sounds good.
All right. Anything else on your side?
Oh, on my side, I have mostly this is what I want to do. I want to go through some of the comments. I already like I covered the non-controversial stuff, so the let's see the things that people suggested that I felt suggestions that could be just accepted. I did that. Let's see, I'll share my screen here. So do you see it? Should I zoom in? Is
Yeah. Zoom in a little bit. Yes.
that good, or should I go more?
Yes, I can read it.
All right. So this is the consensual payload governance, and now we have a number of comments here. These are the ones I did not resolve yet. So some of them already resolved. So for instance, Dan wants us to use accelerators instead of peripherals. And okay, so
Mhm.
we can, whatever. This comment, he says, I'm referencing a work in progress document. And okay, that's going to fix. I'm just leaving this comment out until we publish.
Mhm.
And then I just want to basically collectively just go through the remaining few comments here so we can address them and see if there is any follow-up necessary. Because the sooner we can drive this to completion, the sooner we have this off our plate and on to something else.
Mhm.
So Paul Howard's comment, given how the sentence ends, I would say post is better with the code itself or just the code.
Mm, yeah. It's the code itself. It's not workload identity in this case.
Should I?
I would change that. Yeah.
Oops. That. All right, now I can resolve this comment. Go down. Deleted a space. Okay. Well, this is an interesting one. So I already replaced peripherals with accelerators, but he
Mhm.
says recommend drop accelerators here and deal with these exclusively in the penultimate bullet. The penultimate is
Okay.
what is penultimate bullet?
So penultimate would be the last bullet, and I imagine that would still be the last bullet within that subcategory. That's probably just to make the distinction for like NARCs. Um, so, oh, okay. Accelerators and devices, just GPUs. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
it's just to separate the GPU instance.
Well, what if there isn't an accelerator? So
Yeah.
if there isn't an accelerator, then there is one thing to um,
So maybe we just remove the word accelerator because other devices such as GPUs is fine and it removes that aspect of it from this bullet. And oh, okay, I do see. So below, he has provided this new any device or accelerator that handles decrypted data must. I think that makes sense.
yes, but so here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you don't have an accelerator, then you still must secure. So that's what I'm saying. Like, implement a safeguard all data exchange with network storage. So whenever you're talking to the outside world, all data with the. So maybe what I wanted to say here. Let's switch to suggesting mode for a second. If I do that, um, then with separately, we can say, well, if you are dealing with accelerators, they are part of the TCB. But like, we don't know if they're present or not.
Right.
So I'm
Okay.
going to reply to him and see.
Yeah, it still maintains, makes the trust boundary clear, and we need that in the first bullet.
So I'm going to leave it to him to resolve this comment. And we added that. Okay, so we got that. And here he says, any device or accelerator that handles encrypted data must be considered. So any device accelerator that handles decrypted data must be considered.
We have another person that's joined us. Ishla, welcome in. We are currently just doing a final review of the confidential payload governance. If you have any opinion.
I haven't joined this meeting for a while. I thought it's going to be a conversation, but I think I'll mostly be a passive participant this time.
Yeah, we have a light attendance today, so we just did a review of sort of categorical analysis, NIST style analysis of CCC, and we're reviewing this. But we have some good information coming out on the mailing list as well for GRC.
Okay. If you don't mind me just listening.
Yeah, that's great.
So if we were to encrypted data must be considered part of the TCB. The implementation must only pass plain text data test acceleration of entity. Patient must establish a secure channel through device attestation. Treat the device as an untrusted pass-through and use end-to-end encryption. Yeah, I like this wording. So what I'm inclined to do, and I'm going to switch back to editing mode here, is and that's if there isn't a shoot here, then I need to check my bullet B. So note to self.
Yeah, but I think this is very, very clear, and I agree with every must statement.
And there are no shoots here, so then I'm going to replace this with the B, this with C, this with D, and go. And delete. See, if I'm gonna kill it, then I'm gonna kill his comment about single tenancy. I think if you have accelerators, you're likely not single tenant, but I don't know. I can make that assumption.
Yeah, I think we probably still need to label it in the governance pattern.
So how do you suggest we do that? Because again, if I killed B, then I don't have this text. And should something in this alternative text appear? say that if you don't, well, I mean, like if you have an accelerator that implements a T, you test it. If you don't, then yeah, then you use. Yeah, no, you know what? I'm thinking I'm just gonna kill this entire bullet and not worry about you know, if I have physical security, then I don't need to attest my accelerator. I think that's just like a very special one-off.
Yeah, in governance patterns, is there a place to talk about an edge case condition or physical security as your backup, or is that not appropriate for this style? Because I
This
see
is what
that.
we can do. This is what we can do.
I do think that level of edge case detail is something we can pull out for a MITRE style analysis, and that would be good.
Yeah. Oh, are you okay with me deleting this comment here for now?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So let's see if we go through the rest of the comments. Yes, there are no shoots in here, and it's all solid. So okay, security isolated those practices. Are you familiar with this LSA?
Yeah, so that's our supply chain attestation. Um, so yeah, so you use Salsa to give yourself basically your attested SBOM. Um, yes, so basically it's anti-tampering for your SBOMs. Where would we put that in this? I mean, it comes, yeah, so that is a note to integrity and authenticity checks. Um, for, yeah. I don't know if we need to state salsa explicitly, but we would still need to label it as attested builds.
How about, okay.
Yeah, that actually is an open question for me because yes, salsa is a specific technology from Linux Foundation, but also it is pretty
Okay,
much
so I'm just gonna throw it back to Dan and see what he says.
yeah, it's a good question.
Okay, so that's a good one to leave open. So is this a must or a should? This cannot be like some middle of the road.
Mm. I would prefer that is a must. Um, the challenge here is the must is being can it be verified operationally as not being done though. So
I can simply say include only the minimum, and but again, is that if this is a should, then I need to explain what's the wiggle room, right? Should is wiggle room, and requiring an explanation when you might not want to.
I would be happy to include to have this be colon and then must include. I think we're not over specifying how you would calculate what your minimum is here, but it is to be clear that is an expectation
So
of building
a
this out.
must.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, secure transport. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's just saying the same thing again.
I think that's good. My one question here is a secure transport is the specific language that is typically used, right, for governance patterns?
Mm, well, I don't know if it's just for governance patterns, but like when I say secure transport, it may be TLS, it may be IPsec, right? It's basically
Yes.
there is something that secures the transport of data. And, TLS is transport layer security, but, that's not the only way of doing it. In fact, in 20 years, we may look back and say, oh, there is this other way of doing the same thing. So I don't want to say use use this particular technology. That would be technology specific.
I do wonder if we do need to have that like layer level clarification there, or if secure transport, I mean, because secure transport typically, I'm always thinking network security when I read secure transport. I think that's correct in this case.
Like, in fact, I can imagine situations where information is delivered into, a T using an application level thing. So if for whatever reason they can't, they have to expose HTTP and not HTTPS, but the body of the request is encrypted. That's, to me, it's still secure transport of data. Of the
Yeah,
of
okay.
whatever, right? So I'm staying away from uh, being too prescriptive.
Yeah, I think in that case, that is correct. We might want to put a note. I mean, no, I'm happy with that. I don't think that would get bounced back. Yeah.
Um, just okay. Yes. One. Yes. The work in progress link. What else? I think this is it. This is good. So we just have this one comment with
Yeah.
Paul, this one with Dan asking him to secure build practices, one other open issue. I just added some language that will close later. And yeah, this is good. I think we're done here. So the next one is verifier. We got a bunch
Yeah,
of
I think this
comments
is
on
solid. And with this pattern in place, it's a lot easier to put others in place.
that. Let's see. Wait, why am I not seeing comments on this? They were, oh, there we go. They just showed up. Okay, fine. We can. You ever heard that joke? What's the difference between trusted and trustworthy? Trusted will screw you, trustworthy won't. Okay, this is an interesting one.
Okay. Can you throw a link to this verifier governance one in the chat? I don't think
Yep.
I've seen this
Do
one.
that. This actually goes what Mohammed was saying before, and I kind of swatted it down. He said we need a precise specification. I'm trying to stay away from like creating a formal specification for this, simply because I believe it kind of would be probably a fool's errand. But we still sort of may need more precision, specifically on, what are the different operators? And what can they do, and can we make it sort of still make it a technology agnostic statement? Let's see what can be done about administrator. Remote attestation is probably a term of art. The provider, operator of the verifier. The potential threat vendor. That may require a footnote, basically saying this is a sum total of those operating the hardware, the software. Yes, you can actually imagine a diagram saying there is the hardware of the verifier, and on top of it there is the software of the verifier, and then there is the administrator of the verifier itself, and then there is the administrator of a tenant of the verifier, and there are lots of fingers in that pie.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's the host cloud edge administrator, the tenant administrator, and the VS admin.
The what, sorry?
So the VS admin.
VS?
Yeah, this is
What?
Chris Ramming's language, but I'm not exactly sure what what does this VS stand for in this case? Do we know? I can ask. Verifier operator as the administrator. I believe that's what he's referring to.
Administrator. Where? Okay, I need to figure out where administrator is.
Verifying service. There we go. That's what he's referring to for VS. So the verifying service administrator, the tenant administrator, and the compute administrator. But he clarifies this as whether that be a host cloud or edge, which is, I think, good to bring into the language.
Okay, so okay. Yeah, can we come back to this? I just want to see if there is anything else that we can, like any low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, sounds good. But I think that's a
otherwise,
good discussion we could continue having. The high availability comment, that makes sense. I would say 99.99 is generally what we need
Well,
to be able to start seeing if
we
it's
don't,
tampering.
but we don't, right? So for instance, if I operate a plant and the plant is running for 8 hours a day, then the verifier only needs to run during those hours. So we don't know what they might. So I like his suggestion, the availability should exceed the availability required by applications, right?
Yes, yeah, that's
Meaning in excess of that of the required avail. That
yes, I think that's good.
actually what I want to do is I want to go back to suggesting, so I just make it clear what it is that I okay.
Yeah. Okay. The
Wait, what did
policy,
I just oh wait, what did I just do?
there, I can see it now.
Oh, okay. There we go.
All right.
Um, okay.
Yeah, the next point from Dan on protect verifier policies, that's a reasonably good question. I think in this case, would this not just be, could we not just change it to protect verifier and relying party policies?
well, no, relying party policies are on relying parties.
Okay.
Right? So relying party policy is whatever token credential proof you present to the relying party saying the verifier said so, that is not under the purview of verifier. Right? So
Okay,
it's
so
they're
definitely
two separate
definitely not
concerns. So
on that
that's
side.
definitely verifier.
Mhm.
Um,
So maybe that comes into,
so should I just say verifier tenant policies?
yeah, I
I'm
think
trying to
so.
figure out. I said some. Oh, verifier policies is used in the document as a short for endorsements, reference values, and appraisal policies for evidence in RATS parlance.
Okay, then yeah, I think we're fine.
So then,
There's also
check.
there's another opportunity for clarification on the peer tenant isolation from Paul's comment. That might help.
Sorry, I was typing this, so I didn't.
No, I'm just skipping a little bit ahead in that section to the comment from Paul on the peer tenant isolation. That might be a good place for us to do some clarification on specifically what the tenant or relying policy is.
A little vague. Why is this vague?
Protections must be used. Well, yeah, I mean, his point number 2 is it's probably good enough for this document. We're trying to make it be as general as possible. um,
I'm inclined to respond with saying that I am, or inclined to keep it as is.
yeah, so I'd say keep it as is, but that it was discussed. It's a good point. There may just be another document where we get to that implementation detail. But we do not want to make recommendations that we would have to change in 10 years on this document.
Verify is also key management service? I don't think there is. Probably need to address the comment to him. There we go. All right, so did we cover most things?
Yeah.
What's this? What is this?
Yeah, I think the last thing that I did want to cover was the last comment from Paul, the last one in the document from today.
This is.
Yeah, the tamper evident logs, and whether that should be in that section. I think that it should be because this is the general overall what you must get out of the information in a moment in time. But it might be worth stating or clarifying the nature of the logs up in that 2B section. I do agree with that.
Well, if I were to say ensure, so this is protection of verifier assets. This is different. The reason we maintain histories is that we can have proof. So ensure and be able to prove.
Yeah, I might, instead of able to prove, I would just have like audit ready language, ensure that you have correct and current policies apply to all times that can be audited,
Well,
that can receive a historic audit. I don't
but
know.
that's what this is, right? Like it may be to an auditor, but it may be to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is good. And then it is clear that We need tamper evident logs, policy, cryptographic keys, attestation decisions, responsible actors. Yes, I'm happy with that.
Okay. So we added that. So now we're going back to this original comment by Chris.
Okay.
I do not know. I mean, I feel like I should resolve it, but I do not know how. What is VS again?
So that's the verifier.
Verifier service.
Yes. Verifier service administrator.
I mean, I can add clarification here, run codes. Hardware operator. Should I, or is it not?
I think so, yes. Because I think that's a really fundamental agent in this. And people, I mean, when you're building a governance pattern, it is something that you must identify.
Should I insert a footnote and explain? Or is it best in the main text? Because see, for verifier policies, I have a footnote.
I honestly, I think that if it is tripping up people that have an expertise in this, it's something that's going to have to be outlined, not in a footnote for this. So I think we should make those very clear as agents and actors. And I do think I do really like that clarification between host verifying agent or VS agent and tenant.
Okay, but how would I rephrase it? Do you want to maybe take the pen to this?
Yeah, let me see. Okay, so well, we could just write, depending on individual circumstances, let me just triple check on Chris's note here. Show more. So the verifier service administrator has to be in there. Oops. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to put myself in here as suggesting real quick. Change that after, but I would just put the provider or the operator of the verifier service may itself. No, that's not correct, is it? They're referring to the host. Depending on individual services, the host, I would say the host and the tenant may be potential threat vectors. Would that sound correct in this case?
Well, so again, we talked about how we like under provider/operator, there are several things we're talking about. So there's verifier hardware, there is verifier service software, administration, and then there is tenant administration. So we can basically say the operator, the verifier service, hardware owner, its operator, as well as tenant administrator, verifier service tenant administrator, may are potential threat vectors. So, okay, how about this if I switch to suggesting? Something like that. Something like that. What do you think?
Oops, sorry, I didn't know I was on mute still. I think that this is good. The one thing, do we need to make a clarification on a verifying service for software versus hardware in this? If not, I think this language
Well,
is
that's what I
enough to make
said.
it
The
clear.
hardware owner operator. So there's the hardware owner operator. There's a verifier service administrator.
Right, okay. And the
And the
tenant.
verified
Yes.
tenant
And
administrator. But then if I were to do that and I remove this, how does this read with finally some verifiers serve multiple mutually distrustful tenants?
I think that's a better way to state it than potential threat actor. Yeah, and it says the same thing.
Okay, so then I can reply to say to Chris. Okay, cool. So we're done here.
Yeah, this document's looking good.
All right. I think that's as far as we can take it. I just want to draw your attention to this one other document that I have. It'll be the Jersey SIG, and it's going to be under governance patterns drafts. And then so I started writing the break and inspect one. And I don't think we have enough people here to really talk about it. But I basically, this is the key part. You can review this offline. That there are full and partial break and inspect. So full break and inspect is all the traffic between the client and server of communication, or the peers in a communicating channel, is subject to be inspected. And the partial one is there are some things that we are not allowed to touch that must go uninspected, and the break and inspect only covers sort of a portion of it. And in which case, you know, I don't know if this is the right document to make that distinction, but it may be that you know, for regulatory reasons, some things are like simply untouchable. But
Yeah,
again,
I think we are going to have to break those. Sorry, I do think we'll have to break those apart for the governance pattern, because basically a governance pattern should set you up to be ready for an audit. So I think we're going to have to outline both. Yeah, but this one's going to be an interesting one.
yep. All right. Well, we'll tackle it separately. All right. Thank you both. And I do not know, looking at the calendar, I'm actually, let me take a quick look here. Today is the 4th. 2 weeks from now, I may not be here because I'm technically on vacation. And I'm in
Good.
a different part of the world. So we may need to come back. Oh, gee. The first is New Year's. So maybe until the 15th of January that we don't meet. But that's okay. It's the holidays.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. I think that's when a few of the other SIGs are picking back up for the year. But
Mhm.
I think I'll be sending out a final email about a few final things to the GRC email list. I think one more email list about these patterns that we're finishing up to the mailing list and the TAC, and we'll have these done.
Yeah, and we had a pretty interesting discussion in the attestation SIG yesterday. I'm sure the YouTube video of that is posted, so you may find it useful because we're talking about interactions with Whimsy and the concept of workload and the practicality of deploying confidential computing and all of these things. So we'll be doing some extensive work in the attestation
Yeah,
SIG.
yeah, I was on the call.
Oh,
I
you
was
were on the
quiet,
call. Yeah, I remember. Okay.
but
I
yeah,
also talked to them
but
and
I do want to go back and oh, sorry, my Wi-Fi is awful on this side. Go.
no, you're muted, and you were breaking up before then. I just told them that I would reconvene in 2 weeks, and then I realized in 2 weeks I'm also on vacation. So it may once again be in January that we pick everything up.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi is bad, sorry. But yeah, my last note on that is I definitely will be going back to that recording though and pulling out the notes and the comments on workload identity because I think they were really, really important. And yeah, we should pull them out of that call. So I thought that discussion was great.
All right. Wonderful. I will see you
All right.
next, well, I guess mid-January now.
Yeah, the next call. All
Yeah.
right. Talk
All
to you
right. Thank you.
soon.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.